Hey everyone, it's Bricks in College and welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be the third video in my Bricklink Designer Program Review Series. Specifically, we're going to be focusing on the Series 2 finalist sets. If you don't know what the Bricklink Designer Program is, or you want to hear my thoughts on the Series 1 sets or the Series 4 submissions, then you can watch one of my other videos on the topic linked in the description. The Series 2 finalists have been selected, and currently we're in the phase of refining finalist designs, which will be until May 1st of 2024. In June, crowdfunding will begin, and production and shipping will begin in November, which means that while the designs are not yet finalized, the designs we see will be very similar to the final designs, and the designs will be finished and shipped by the end of this year. So now, here are the 5 finalists. We have Logging Railway by Ties25, The Ocean House by Hanwaz, Mushroom House by Jonas Kram, Brick Cross Train Station by Brickster, and Ominous Isle by Jazzlekraz. I'm going to go into depth on each of these designs as they are now, and I'm going to make an estimate as to what the cost will be. Of course, if the designs end up significantly different, or the cost ends up very different than what my guess is, then my opinions on the sets could change. First up, we have Logging Railway by Ties25. This design currently has 2,706 pieces, so I think it's likely going to be $250 to $300. This is a train in a fictional logging railway that's transporting logs out of a forest in Oregon. The train has a 040 locomotive that the designer has named Toto, followed by a flat car with a generator, then a logging wagon with the logs, and finally, a bobber-style caboose. The train is 2.5 feet long and sits on top of a 3-foot-long wooden trestle bridge. I like the use of muted forest colors in the locomotive, which make it look colorful while still looking realistic. At first, the locomotive looked a little bit small and even chibi to me, but when I looked up actual pictures of a 040 locomotive, it actually looks pretty realistic. The inside is also well detailed with these levers and dials. There's space for an engineer, and I especially like this little box of wood on the right. The flat car and logging wagon are simple, but in a way that makes sense. As the name suggests, the flat car is flat, and it has a nice generator build on top of it. The logging car itself is fairly simple, so as not to take away from the look of the logs on top of it, and I like the use of the chain element to hold them in place. Finally, I think the caboose has the nicest design of all the cars. I like the color scheme and this build technique for the slightly raised part in the center. I also like the lights on the back and the use of a door so that minifigures can actually get inside, as well as these ladder builds to help minifigures get up to the platforms. I kind of wish we had a picture of what the inside looked like, but really it doesn't matter too much because this build is definitely meant to be displayed from the outside. These minifigures aren't anything special, but it's nice to get a few to be able to populate the build. Finally, there's the trestle bridge, which I think adds some positives and some negatives to the design. It looks like a very repetitive build that would get boring quickly. And also, by rough estimate, it looks like it uses about 1,000 pieces, which means that it significantly adds to the piece count and thus cost of the design. That being said, I think it does look really nice and helps the build stand out a lot. It just has so much more presence with the bridge than without it. I also like that the designer didn't use standard Lego rails, but instead put plates held in with clips. I think it makes it look a lot better as a display piece than standard Lego rails would look. That being said, some will be happy to know that the designer has said that this train can run on normal Lego tracks, and it was designed to be motorized, though no motor comes in the box. Overall, I like how each car is detailed enough to look good while not looking over detailed. I think the middle cars do a good job at bringing your attention to what's important, the items they're carrying, and the trestle bridge does a good job at doing that for the entire train. This would make a great display piece for any enthusiast of old trains, just provided you have the 3 feet of space needed to put this on your shelf. Next up is the Ocean House by Hanwaz, which currently has 2,157 pieces and is likely going to be $200 to $220. This design comes from a world that Hanwaz invented in a story to tell his sons. And this is actually the second set in this world to be made, the first one being the Mountain Windmill from the Bricklink Designer Program Invitational in 2021. The Ocean House is the house of the boy who's the main character in the story. Hanwaz has said that he tries to focus on the combination of man-made things and nature for his builds, and you can see that in this design. First through the actual natural elements like the vines and the small hillside, but also the colors of the house itself, such as these colorful tile elements on the side, which almost look like they're leaves for the house. The house itself is actually quite small, but Hanwaz has added a lot of scenery around the outside to increase the presence of the design. The porch looks like a nice place to relax at the end of the day. I like this detail of the fish hanging out to dry, and I also like these side builds of the small boat and cart. They don't add too many pieces to the build, but add things for the minifigures to do. The inside of the house only has one room, with a small kitchen and a dining space for the minifigures. It also has a chest and some shelves on the other side, with this cool map element. Perhaps the map that the boy found that led him to the Mountain Windmill, Hanwaz's other set. I'm a little bit disappointed by the limited interior, especially because the interiors of Hanwha's other designs are pretty great. That being said, I think this is overall a great design, either as a standalone or with Hanwha's other builds. He has a consistent design language with his use of color and his fantastical builds. His third build, the Riverside Scholars, is currently under consideration in the Bricklink Designer Program Series 4. And if you're interested in seeing more about it, I talk about it in my video on the Series 4 designs, which will be linked in the description. Next up is Mushroom House by Jonas Kram, which currently has 943 pieces, making it the smallest set of the wave, and likely to be $90 to $100. This set doesn't depict a giant mushroom, but instead a home for tiny forest elves, and you can see that in the scale of the other items in the set, such as this snail, these blueberries, or these acorns. The interior of this build has 2 floors. The ground floor has a small chair and a table. I like this detail of the acorn print being used on the door. The top floor has a leaf bed for the elves, as well as what looks like a painting station. The outside of the build has a bit of extra foliage around, making this a nicer display piece. I love how the designer was able to seamlessly integrate the man or elf-made components of the house into the natural elements of it. I especially love this sideways backpack being used as a mailbox and this little water spigot on the side. Finally, there's a traveling merchant riding a snail, which seems like an awesome way to get around at this scale, though maybe a bit slow. The merchant is selling wares that look to be blueberries and cherries. There are a few other side builds, and while they're all simple, I think they do a good job depicting what they're supposed to be, and they add a little extra to the display and play value of the set. Overall, I love this whimsical fantasy world that Jonas Kram has created, and I love the feeling he was able to create using fewer than 1,000 pieces. This is also the first set I've seen that uses minifigures, but looks like it's almost human scaled. I'll definitely be looking to pre-order the set day 1. Next up is Brick Cross Train Station by Brickster. This design currently has 3,034 pieces and is likely going to be $270 to $320. This is supposed to be an old train station that has been restored and had some modern elements tacked onto the sides of it. The designer said it was inspired by a number of train stations they saw while traveling across Europe. This also fits in with the modulars, and it looks to me like the perfect train station for any modular city. In addition to a beautiful exterior, the interior also looks amazing. The central section is mostly empty, which reminds me of the vastness that I feel when entering certain European train stations. The coffee shop looks like a nice place to relax while waiting for your train, with 2 floors of seating and a kitchen on the other side of the building. This ticket shop / newsstand is also a great use of a small space. The back of the station also looks nice, with a deck overlooking the trains, as well as a large train platform and this nice bench to sit on while waiting. The designer not only made this build modular with its ability to take off roofs and floors, but also kept the modular standard of making all areas accessible by a minifigure. Overall, this is a beautiful build. It reminds me of many of the train stations that I've been to, and it makes me wish that I had a Lego city to display this in. The final design of the wave is Ominous Isle by Jazzlekraz, which has 2,773 pieces and is likely going to be $250 to $300. This design depicts the pirate base of Captain Mutton Chops and his crew, and it looks like the perfect place for these pirates to plunder any ship that's unlucky enough to make its way here. And the twist of this design is that it can be reconfigured into multiple different configurations, with the walkways and platforms included, making them all viable islands. Jazzlekraz has done a great job with the rockwork, and I also like the use of the hot dog elements as railings for the bridges. The interior has a luxury captain's cabin, as well as a treasure room and some nice play features, including the ability to lift the gate underneath the skull. Jazzlekraz has also included many small secret details around the build which add to its atmosphere. I like the attention that he paid to the modularity of this design, as well as the ability for a minifigure to get from any one part of the island to any other part, as displayed in this map. That ability seems to be retained throughout many of the reconfigurations that you can do with this design. While this is a great build on its own, I think what makes Jazzlekraz even more impressive is his incredible range with designs. He has submitted 5 other designs that I could find to the Bricklink Designer Program, and all of them are very different, while all still looking good. This Forest Citadel is a great medieval themed build. The Copperhead Creek shows off his Western style. Alternate Futures are beautiful postcard style builds, and the Empire Station depicts a sleek retro-futurist monorail and train station. Finally, his Atlantis research base is a cool underwater sci-fi build, which I talked about more in my Series 4 video linked in the description below. Jazzlecraz is a great designer overall, and I think the Ominous Isle would be a great set for any pirate fans. Overall, these are 5 more amazing designs from the Bricklink Designer Program, and while I continue to wish that we had a few smaller and cheaper designs, I think these all deserve their spots as finalists. The set I'm most likely to get is Mushroom House, because of its color, its fantastical whimsy, and it being the smallest of the designs. But between now and June 1st, I will continue to consider all the other sets, as I haven't ruled any of them out yet, since they're all such great designs. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this content, please consider subscribing. I'll have more videos like this one and on other LEGO topics coming out soon. If you have any of your own thoughts about the sets, let me know in the comments below. I'll see you next time, and I hope you have a great day.